Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Mobile Domination Podcast. My name is Dan Hafner. I'm super excited to bring you guys another show. Appreciate all of you coming in and listening. I know we've been a little erratic with the publications of this podcast, but no matter, because I want to make sure. I was just telling my guest I have on here right now. I want to make sure that we're bringing fresh stuff, new ideas to the show. So, if it doesn't come out every Tuesday at 9 a.m., like, you know what? It'll be all right. We'll all live. We'll all get through it. So anyway, I have a guest on here. I'm going to introduce her in a second. But this is really an interesting topic I want to talk about today because, she had reached out to me, wanted to come on the show. And I was like, yeah, I think this could be really fun. This could be really neat. We're going to talk a little bit about books today, a little bit about marketing, streams of income, just some interesting things. So, without any further ado, I want to introduce you guys to Judy Baker. She's the book marketing mentor. She helps business authors, get more bang for their book. They turn their intellectual property into multiple streams of income. She has been doing a lot of self-publishing. She does workshops, one-to-one mentoring. Just does a whole lot of cool stuff, and I love her vibe. I love who she is, and I'm glad to meet you. So, welcome to the show, Judy. How are you?
Oh, thank you so much, Dan. I'm thrilled to be here, and it's a lot of fun to do podcasts, and I'm having fun because I listen to them. So now I'm on them,
That's
and
awesome.
it sounds like you've been doing that. You've been doing that too.
Yeah. I've been on a tear recently. For any of you, I haven't really made it, public on this show, but I have been doing a lot of guest appearances on podcasts lately. We met through a platform called Podmatch. For any of you guys out there, I'm good friends with the founder, Alex Sanfilippo. He's a really, really good guy. If you have not tried the Podmatch platform, shameless plug, go check it out. It's really, really cool. You can meet some awesome people just like Judy on here. So yeah, little plug for you there, Alex, if you listen to the show. But anyway, Judy, before we get into the questions I have for you, and the world of books and authors and stuff like that, just tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, better than I did.
Oh well, you did an outstanding job.
Thank you.
I Yeah, a lot of energy. I got involved with. Well, I've been involved with books my whole life. I mean, as a kid, my happy place, going to the library and taking out as many books as I could. And I got that from my father, who always had probably three books, magazines, you name it. Everything was going constantly. Everyone in my family is a voracious reader. And then in high school, I did something. Well, you're too young to remember this. There used to be classes only girls could take and only boys could take. And I said, that's nonsense. And so as my last year in high school, I said I want to take industrial arts, which is what it was called back then. I mean, this is ancient history. And I had to get special permission to take this class because I was in this whole college prep course track, and this class was not part of that. But I wanted to publish a book. I had written and illustrated a book of poems. And a friend of mine was in a business where she was selling what the machine set type. It was kind of it's before we had all the computer really fancy smashy stuff.
Yeah.
I learned how to do this, and I learned how to run an offset press, but I was the only girl in the class, and they were going, oh, you can't do this, it'll be awful. And I said, no, it'll be fine. And everyone was wonderful. And I just had the best time. And so I published my first book. And then I didn't think about that stuff for a really, really long time. And as it turned out, my trajectory about 20 years later was working with authors to help them brand themselves and their books and their business. And I've just been focused on that since about 2011 when I got involved with the Bay Area Independent Publishers. And within 6 months, I was president of that group. And I've been going since then. So that's a little bit about me. And I had a little hiccup in there. I had cancer in 2014, and it made me take a step back and evaluate what I was doing. And it was actually a good thing because it gave me an opportunity to say, do I want these people in my life? Do I want my business to still look the same? And I changed almost everything.
Wow. Wow. A lot of things, a lot of directions we can go with all that. That's amazing. First of all, congratulations on making it through all that. I know that's no small feat. Um, but I want to go back. I want to revisit something just real quick. This is kind of unrelated to the topic, but you mentioned I was too young to remember, all boys and all girls classes, which is very, very true. That never was a thing. Where was this? Where did you grow up? Like where was it? I'm just curious.
Well, I grew up in California. I was born and raised in San Diego, and this is I was a groundbreaker. If something didn't look the way I thought it should be, I would go, well, can't we do it this way? And so, yeah, this was back in the late 60s, early 70s, 1970s. And
Hmm.
they did have segregated classes. But because I did this, the next year there were 11 girls who took that class. And then, as you know, I'm sure you know this, and then boys could learn how to cook. And then it became really competitive. And now there isn't this, like only, like your brain doesn't work. And now we have STEM. And I'm just really excited. But I also broke the dress code too. Girls could only wear skirts and dresses to school. And I said, that's stupid too. So I did both. I was just kind of a bit of I was nice about it, but if a rule didn't make sense, I said, let's not do that anymore.
Yeah, so you were kind of an entrepreneur from the beginning with that, mindset of, hey, this is weird. Let's do something about this. I like that. That's awesome.
Exactly. Yeah. And I did that too with, I think we had some fundraisers, and because of what I suggested about how to get the word out, more successful, brought more money in, brought more people in. So I've been doing that forever. I like to connect people, and I like to help people get what they want in a fun way.
That's always the best part, about doing all this is helping other people get what they want. And because I think a lot of us we're naturally selfish as human beings. We're always kind of about what we want, right? But helping there's no other feeling like that. You know what I mean? So, but anyway, let's stay focused. Let's get back on track here. So you do books, you do branding and that kind of stuff. I've always said, I think I've said it on here with other people. I've yet to become a published author. And I want to be. Actually, I did write my wife a book one time, and I got it like printed. So I
Yeah.
do call myself a published author, but it's not really like true. I guess I've never sold. I sold one copy that I bought, right?
Okay.
But tell me a little bit about that, because you mentioned like you help them with branding. Is there like a specific process that you created for this? Is it kind of a proprietary thing that you have, or are you kind of function more as like a coach or accountability person? Like what is it that you actually help them with?
Well, you brought up some interesting points. What I do is look at who you are. There's not a distinction in my mind between you as a business owner, you as the author, you as a person out in the community. All of those things go into your brand. And nonfiction is pretty much where I hang out, but I do dabble with some of the other genres. But I help business owners with their story. They put it into a book, they put their information into a book so that people can now take advantage of it. They can either read it or hear it or see it, depending on the formats. And with your book, it's part of your business brand. I mean, I'll give you an example. Two of my friends built their entire businesses on one book. They added other things down the road, but they took one book, and over the course of 25 years, the late Jim Horan, who wrote the one-page business plan, everything was built on that foundation of that one book. Now, he did variations of it along the way, but he built a consulting business, he did certification for other coaches, and all came out of his desire to help people share his knowledge. So that was kind of the entry point, and then people could hire him. And then he said, oh, I'm getting too busy doing that. And so his prices kept going up. But because he was an authority, so think about author, authority, it just raises, it elevates you as an expert. And so in your business, you could use your book as a calling card, as a way to get speaking opportunities, and your book branding and your business branding need to be compatible if they're not identical so that people can see you. So think about, like I was commenting on your logo in the background. I think it's just so fun and so great. So if you write your business book, you want to incorporate some of the elements that you've used in your logo so that people know and identify that book with you and your business. So I think it's critical, and I function as a marketing strategist where I'll look at what your branding looks like now and is it working, and is it working for your book. And so sometimes your book needs to get a little bit of a tune up because our attention spans are tiny. So if you have something that is very easy to understand, easy to digest, and I know here's who you serve, here's the problem I'm having, and here I can solve it. Wow, I'm going to buy your book. And then being consistent in bringing your message to people. That's really what branding is all about. It's not about changing everything up every 2 seconds. You want to have a common thread, and so that people can identify you. And if they like you, they're going to buy you again and again and again. So I help people do that, and I help them stay accountable on their path. The biggest mistake people make when they're launching and then marketing their book is they don't do it. They think just by putting the book up for sale, they're done. Not true, because over 1 million books are published in the United States alone every year.
Wow.
And that's not counting all the other books that are already in existence. So you've got to stand out. And the way you stand out is by doing something every week. Whether it's putting a post up, whether it's, doing something live, you want to continue the conversation. And like I said, you can build a business off of one book.
Wow. It's funny. I find a lot of commonality with that when we talk about like apps, right? Like a lot of people think just because you launched the app, it's like it's a lot of similarities with a book. Like just because you publish a book, no one really cares. You have to figure out how to market it. It's like building a funnel. It's like building like a website. Nobody knows about your website unless you actually promote it.
Right?
So just a more of a logistical question here. When you talk about your book, like because you said there's no really differentiation between like me and then my business and who I am and that kind of stuff, which I agree with. When you talk about a book, like is it um like an autobiography type of book? Is it your specific business problem book? Like what are you talking about here?
Well, with a nonfiction book, it could be someone's memoir. It could be their story of how they got to where they are and how that became their business. So it could be that kind of a story. Or it could be I'm an expert and I know how to solve this problem. So say you wrote a book right now about how you take the idea and then turn it into an app and then what happens afterwards. So it could be something short, very, very, very tightly focused, or it could be more general. But with nonfiction in the business realm, people usually are looking to solve a problem and they don't want to spend a lot of time. They want to do it quickly. I mean, think about James Clear's Atomic Habits. When he launched that book, do you know how many he was on like 120 some podcasts within the space of, I think it was 6 months. And so he was giving little nuggets from his book. And that's how you can think about a nonfiction book that works in your business. What is something you've done that other people, I mean, it may come easy to you, but it's not easy for other people. So you're sharing that shortcut so that they don't have to go in the pothole and, go through all the agony that you did to learn, oh, that's not the way to do it. Here's what you do instead. So it's really, it's really condensing that juice that you've discovered.
Yeah, no, that's good. I like that. I love that book, by the way. That's a really good book, Atomic Habits.
Yeah.
Um, So you mentioned, I've always been curious about like book marketing and stuff. Like, so, you don't have to give away any of your secret sauce here, but other than podcasts, what are some of the ways that if I was a new book, if I was launching my new book, what are some of the ways that you can go out there and promote it?
Well, one of the best things to do is after you've published, you want to be sure that you have, that your book is widely available. And there's a couple different ways I can recommend right off of the top of my head. One of the best things to do is to get what's called a universal book link, and like a URL, it's for your book. And this is available through books, the number 2, read.com. It's part of the draft to digital platform, and they're offering this for free. And when you register your book there, you can then say, oh, my book is available. It'll go through the database. You put your ISBN number in there, and it goes through and it finds all the places your book is available for sale. So instead of having to say, oh, buy my book at, this retailer, this retailer, this retailer, this retailer, you put in your universal book link everywhere you want people to find you, on your website, on your LinkedIn profile. LinkedIn profiles are important. And then on your social pages. And then people can click on that link and it'll bring up a landing page. And people can choose which retailer they want to get your book from. So that is a really good, secret tip that some people don't know about. But luckily I'm friends with both Kevin Tumlinson from Draft to Digital and Mark Coker from Smashwords. And now that they're united, it's getting even better. So that's one way. Now, I mentioned a LinkedIn profile. If you're a nonfiction author, your audience is in LinkedIn. Those are business people. So you can put in your profile, there's a place to put in publications. And you want to put that in there because, again, that's enforcing your authority. I know we talked about podcasts, but you know what else? YouTube. Oh my God. You got a book? There's a bunch of things you can do on YouTube. You can do you could read a section of your book. People seem to like that. You could reveal something from your book, just a small excerpt. You could turn your book into a series of videos. You could turn it into a course. So there's a whole bunch of things you can do, thinking about how do people in your audience consume information. And I don't know about you, I happen to be somebody who likes to listen. I also like to watch, and I like to pick up a physical book. And one of the funniest things in the world is there are people who will buy your book in every format it is available because they're going to be looking at the content or using the content in different scenarios.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I've said that before, especially like inside of what I do is, I think there's like 3 main ways, right? There's the video medium, right, that people consume content with. There's the read or like the text medium, which is reading stuff like blogs and things. And then there's the audio version, which is, audio versions, podcasts, that kind of stuff. Or there can be combinations of those. And I'm with you. I'm an audio focused person. I can't tell you the last time I actually finished a physical book, but I'll go and find the audiobook, and that's where I'll do it. So do you have any experience with audiobooks or marketing those or turning books into audiobooks at all?
Yes, I actually do. And I have a
Oh,
number of absolutely fabulous resources. And there's different audio production companies for different types of books.
hmm,
And I didn't know that when I first started, but
interesting.
each of them specialize. I mean, if you think about film companies, the same thing. They specialize in a certain type of film. Well, there are audio production companies that focus on children's books. There are ones that focus on nonfiction, and there are ones that focus on fiction. And something that's really been changing. Are you well? You know about Spotify, and Spotify is one of the best engines for listening to almost anything, whether it's music, podcasts, news, you name it. Well, they purchased Findaway Voices, and Findaway Voices is one of the production companies for creating audiobooks. Now, people might think there's a really high dollar investment to get an audiobook produced, but not necessarily. And there's some new tools coming on board with AI narration. So there's going to be different flavors, if you will. So think about just like a plain vanilla AI narrated version of a book. Well, that would probably work very well for a nonfiction book, or the author might narrate their book. But then, what if it needs to be dramatized? Then you're going to hire a voice actor to do that. So there's lots of different layers and choices. But the audiobook world, it has, I'm trying to think of the statistic I just heard. It has like doubled it's been doubling every year over the last 5 years. So the number of people who consume audiobooks has just exploded. And it's now, I think it's a $700 billion industry, and it's growing. I hope that's the right number, but I mean, it's a huge number.
Wow. That's really cool. I mean, it makes sense, like you said, with different film companies making different types of movies and stuff. Because that'd be really cool. Because like I said, I've always wanted to do a book, but then also to have an audiobook out there.
Yeah.
That'd be really, really neat. That'd be
Yeah.
really neat. Um, Sorry,
And
go ahead.
most audiobook production is based on finished uh,
Right.
number of minutes. And so, yeah, so it really depends on your book how much money it would be. But, think anywhere from about 1,000 to, if it's a really, involved book, it can be in the upper thousands of dollars. But it doesn't have to be out of reach. And with Findaway Voices, with some of the narrators, you can come to an agreement where you're going to do like a cooperative publishing. And so they'll share in some of the risk, and they'll get rewarded as the books sell.
Oh, that's pretty interesting. Very
Yeah.
interesting. Very cool. Um, Let me ask you this. I'm kind of interested, because it's kind of cool how you got into all of this and all the different things that you've gone on with.
Yeah.
Um, you know, what's I guess I don't want to ask you how you got into it, but like what's the best piece of advice you ever got from anyone in the industry or anything, like how you got into, or how you've managed to learn things and conquered things and stuff. Is there a good piece of advice you can share with all of us?
Oh, absolutely. Authors tend to be very solo. So they're writing, and they're kind of in their office, or they're somewhere by themselves. But the best advice I can give is get yourself out there with other authors, and in your industry you want to be in an association or a group where you are listening to what people are saying so that you can answer their questions. And I always think that makes a big difference. Showing up is number one. When you volunteer, you often then get more airtime, if you will. So you're being seen, and being seen as a helpful person. And as a business owner and an author, my goodness, who are you going to go to? You're going to go to the person who's helped you, who's not being pushy, who's not being salesy. They're genuinely there to support you. And so when you show up being generous and kind, that's the best way you can start to develop relationships and learn from other people. And if you support other people, they tend to support you.
100%. Amen to that. I love it. Very cool. All right. Well, that's about all the time I think we have. I just wanted to slip one thing in there too. I was thinking as you were talking about Spotify and all these different things. Like that's one reason I got into what I got into, was just like the coolness of technology and how all these platforms like Netflix and Spotify have just like taken over the world, right?
Right.
One thing I've always wanted to do with one of my clients is actually like put their, kind of translate their book into audio and kind of put it in an app form and that kind of stuff. I know there's a lot of other platforms out there that can do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, just a random thought from Dan right there. Anyway, let's not take away from Judy here. Judy, where can we go to either contact you or ask you more information to just kind of get our book to the next level?
Okay. Well, I offer something called a book buzz audit, and that's BOOKBUZZAUDIT. If you go to bookbuzzaudit.com, you can book a free consultation with me, and we'll look at what your platform looks like now and what your biggest problem is and how to take the next step. So bookbuzzaudit.com is the best place to do that. And if you just want to see what I've got to offer you overall, you can go to bookmarketingmentor.com.
All right. Sounds good. We appreciate it. That's good. So all that stuff will be in the show notes for you guys. This is a really cool conversation. Like I said, I was excited to have Judy on here about, a lot of this show's about mobile apps and dominating, that kind of conversation. But I mean, you can dominate with books too. Like you can really, you can, just like she said, like launch an entire business and career in something completely new off of the back of a book. So it's definitely worth a look. It's definitely worth looking into, and it's something I've been looking into myself too, I will say. So, keep your eyes on the horizon, guys. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, thank you so much, Judy. We really appreciate having you on the show. And we look forward to, keeping in touch and seeing where you go from here.
Well, thank you, Dan. And I think I want to have a conversation with you about turning one of my clients' books into an app.
That's awesome. That's actually something that we've been talking with a few people with recently.
Yeah.
I think there's a really cool dynamic and conversation to be had there. So yeah, let's make it happen. Let's do
All
it.
right.
All
Thank
right,
you.
everyone. Thank you so much, Judy. Appreciate you guys. And thank you all for joining the show. Really appreciate you as well. If you enjoy the show, please, leave us a review on Apple or Spotify or any of the above mentioned places. That always helps. And recommend the show to anyone you think might get value out of this. We're always looking for guests. So if you think you might be a fit like Judy to come on the show and share your awesome expertise, please hit me up. You can either download our app, Mobile Domination, or you can go to dappermobileapps.com and you can get in touch with me that way. All right, guys. And don't forget about Podmatch, like we mentioned at the beginning, where I also have a profile, and Judy is as well, if you want to get her booked on your show as well. All right, guys. That's all I got for you. Appreciate all of you again. This has been the Mobile Domination Podcast. Talk to you guys next time.